All right, in this episode, we break down Jake Arrieta's pitching mechanics.
I have no idea what I'm doing with my hands.
Brent Portia, David Ardsman here at the @Top Velocity hashtag Pitch Tip Show, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Musically @Top Velocity hashtag Pitching Tips, Baseball Tips, David Ardsman Tips. I'm not wearing my shirt, Steve.
The one time
we answered on the show.
Literally said it yesterday. I'm gonna wear it every show.
I'm gonna wear this shirt tomorrow. Be ready for it. Be ready for it. Episode 298. We're getting close. Y'all figure out what y'all want to do for the 300 episode. No, y'all care?
It's coming up. Got any ideas?
Some suggestions.
I said we walk down Bourbon Street and film.
Okay,
Yes.
when nobody's giving us suggestions on the comments.
Bourbon Street.
Doesn't sound like it's a big deal. Anyways, podcasts coming up.
The bullpen DA.
Yeah.
I interviewed Griffey today. That's awesome.
That's
Can't
awesome.
wait for that.
Tell him I said hey.
That's awesome.
Tell him I said hey.
I know I said you said I. No, his dad.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
For real?
So check out the bullpen with
cool
DA. You can go at the DA53 if you hit him up on Twitter, and then at the bullpen DA probably on
The
Twitter
bullpen
too.
with DA on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes. So
Yep.
check it out. Listen.
Just launched my fast pitch velocity program for those ladies out there into softball. One of the
Like
guys,
Steven.
yeah, one of the guys, Joseph Brasher, came to the program, wanted me to do that. I also have 2 girls coming up. So if you're interested, if you see a lot of softball stuff coming up, it's the only reason why. It's pretty cool though if you want to learn about it. Really cool biomechanics. David Ardsman would suck as a softball pitcher. I just want you to know that.
What?
Just kidding. You only fit a baseball pitching delivery.
When baseball's done, I'm gonna try.
Okay, we're going. I could not see David doing a softball. It would be hilarious.
I can fully see it.
Golden wig.
I can see slow pitch softball.
You can
Oh,
see
yeah.
it? Yeah, slow pitch.
I played slow pitch softball one time and struck out because I fouled off 3 times in a row. Yeah.
We all know the DA can hit. What's your batting average in the bigs?
0.5.
Oh,
Zero
dude, I
five.
wish. Yeah,
Zero
I wish it was. I don't have a hit. It's a
He's
zero.
hitless.
No, he's had 4 at bats.
Oh, you've only had 4?
Yeah, but I've had some sack bunts.
Nice.
Oh man.
Nice.
What?
Who'd you hit against?
I remember the very first one was against God. Who was it? He was a stud with Houston. Lefty starter. Ended up going to Pittsburgh for a little bit.
Nolan Ryan.
Yeah. I don't remember all of the bats.
He's not that old.
Oliver Perez.
Satchel Paige.
No, he was a stud with Houston. I forgot.
Oh, well.
Doesn't matter. Didn't hit.
All
Struck
right.
out.
So it's gonna be a good
Put
show.
one ball in play. A hard little one hopper to third base. He actually had to like backhand dive for it.
Okay. You give it a
Yeah.
little.
That pissed me off, dude, because I hit it. I was like, yeah, that's it. And
Well, I talked about in the previous episode. The reason Bumgarner's a good hitter because his pitching delivery is very rotational, and you're a very linear guy. So we assume that it's just hard for you to be a good hitter. Do you feel that when you?
I've
when
never
you hit
been
it?
able to squash the bug.
Yeah, because you're not.
I can't
We
do
said
it.
it. We said you knee slam when you swing.
Yeah, I do.
bet you do.
Without a doubt.
You're like,
I can't. They're like, dude, literally, I was in the cage one time. The hitting coach is like, hey, you're supposed to actually turn your back leg. I was like,
Oh, you
how?
don't-
Like how?
How do you do it?
I don't know what I'm doing.
You don't drive it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get going. Let's get serious. Come on, let's get serious. The kid asks, can you break down Jake Arrieta mechanics? All right, Jake Arrieta, we already did a, did I say this? No, I did. We already did a show on Jake Arrieta, but we just did it on his Pilates and his training approach. David was actually in that. That was in the other facility. So we're going to go at his biomechanics today. What do we got on Nathan? What's his size here?
6'4", 225.
That's
He's
tall,
30.
man.
I think he's bigger than that.
6'4", 225, and you think he's bigger than that?
I think he's bigger than
Jeez,
that.
he's a big
Look at
man.
him, dude. He's all muscle, bro.
I don't think
He's an attractive guy too. I'm not gonna lie. I think he's good looking.
Hey,
Wow.
Personal interest with that.
No,
Interesting.
225. He played for the Orioles for I think like 4 years. Struggled as a starter with the Orioles. Got traded to the Cubs a couple years ago, and has pretty much been an absolute stud ever since.
Until the other night, he struggled a little bit.
Yeah, well, struggled in the NLCS, but I think he's doing okay.
I don't know. Who are you going to pick? Call it Dodgers, Cubs.
I think the Cubs are still too much, man. I
think?
mean, obviously Dodgers are up 2-1, but the Cubs are just too good.
I'm calling Dodgers. You know, I don't know. It's not out of like excitement. You know, I mean, it's like
You're really excited about it?
I'm not. You think people would be like, I'd be like, screw the Dodgers. No, I'm serious. I think for some reason, I think the Dodgers are going to pull it out.
No, I don't know. I could see them winning. They obviously are doing something right, but
like we were talking about.
My picks were the Cubs and Blue Jays, so that's really working out.
Is how crazy. Well, it would be insane if it was the Cubs and Indians, because you have two teams that haven't won a World Series, one since 08, the other one since 48. I think that would be ridiculous. 08 were the Cubs.
1908 Cubs. Yeah. And 1948 the Indians.
Yeah, 2008.
2008.
And 2008.
That's how long ago 1908 was. We're over 100 years. All right, let's break it down. Here we come, take him to his leg lift. This is obviously in a warm-up pitch, so not going to be as dynamic. But I don't think he's that much of a max effort guy. I wouldn't say he's like a real low effort guy. He gets pretty aggressive on the mound, but I think this is going to be pretty close. So decent leg lift. You can see starting momentum out of his leg lift. He's not sitting too hard or sitting too long over his drive leg. Loads fairly well. I think he goes a little bit more down than out. Maybe as he throws harder, he keeps his momentum going forward better. Gets into a good loaded position though. On that back leg, I'll say his force vector, like I said, is a little vertical. That's because if he moved those hips out a little bit longer and saddled it a little bit longer into that hip, he could have maybe gotten more linear. Maybe that happens when he throws harder. Still a good position, closed off.
His legs are huge.
Yeah, and look at the size of his legs. That's Pilates, guys. Pilates is just amazing. It really makes your legs big. But he's really closed off. I even like a little internal rotation there. And then as he opens and drives, kind of together, we see the front side opening and back leg driving. I like to see those synced up. It's a big part of 3X pitching. I talk about syncing the feet up as we go through those movements in the front foot strike. Now we're kind of lost here on when he lands, but it looks like he lands right here. And you can see his arm timing is probably a little early. So when he lands, he maybe has a little open trunk, a little external rotation. Like I said, I bet you when he's throwing harder, we see more separation. I'm actually shocked it's not that well separated. As he stabilizes front leg, you see the hips open, and you can see he's almost well into shoulder rotation. Not a lot of separation here.
Remember too, this is probably a warm-up pitch in the first inning. So he's, you
Just
never
laid-
know.
really
he
laid
could
back.
be just laid back on, not really driving at all, not really pushing himself on this pitch. So this might be the first pitch of his first 7 or 8. So it might even, it might just be a matter of being.
I think it
early.
is, because when I think about just seeing him through the year, he gets very aggressive off the back rubber, and if we watch that leg here, you can see when I see the toes curl right there, that means it's a late push, a late drive, even though it's not much, but he is still kind of gripping and a little extension off that leg. I mean, not that much there, but I know that's got to be more when he's at game speed. It's hard to get game speed, guys. Unfortunately, like I said, there's a conspiracy in Major League Baseball. Right when they're about to show you a side view, they quickly shift to behind the pitcher. So it's just so hard for us to get these side views to see the linear movements, the linear power. But when he abducts the arm, good abduction. I think his arm path is it's fairly healthy. He might be a little bit abducted above shoulder height right here if it wants to keep going on me. So right there, that might be a little bit above shoulder height, which you can get into impingement issues, but I don't think it's a problem. And then, like I said, it loads well. And then his trunk here is not really that far forward, but like I said, if he's got more drive, more energy off the rubber, that's probably obviously more linear, and it rolls over well. Good front leg, and I think that's one thing you see too, that gets even more aggressive. So he's getting a good front leg extension. Here's the thing, he's doing everything right, guys. He's timing all his movements, his feet sync up well. The problem is not great hip shoulder separation. I think it gets better when he starts throwing harder. The arm loads perfectly. It turns over really well, sticks front leg. So when I see that and he makes it more dynamic, I think it's very impressive. So the only thing I'd really want to investigate to say that he's really safe of any injury is if hip to shoulder separation does get better, because if it doesn't, then what happens when he starts throwing harder, he starts hyperangulated. I don't think that's happening with him. I think he is separating, but something I would just want to look into more.
Yeah, I think you're right on. It's, I think a lot of with this pitch is the fact that it's a warm-up pitch. Probably could be really early in the warm-up, so he's basically probably that might be the first time on the mound, so he might just be feeling the mound and feeling a throw. Watch some guys, they basically lob it in for the first couple throws, and that might be that. But we obviously, what he does, he times it up right. He keeps it consistent. That's a big thing with him, man. It's consistent. Almost every pitch is the same. You don't see him kind of going one way, one pitch, one way, the other pitch. You see everything timing correctly and being consistent.
And you see that internal rotation there, where the elbow's up towards the head. That tells me he's not pulling the arm down. He's loading it up and then letting it unload naturally or off of his load. There's no pull. There's no pull down. Even with his trunk so high up like that, in a warm-up pitch, you don't see him trying to aggressively pull his arm down. That tells me a lot about him. I think he's very efficient and very protective of his arm.
Yeah, you see it work throughout the season. He seems always to get better towards the end of the seasons, and he holds up.
And we know he's a great. He's very well conditioned, with lifting, with Pilates, and all his additional stuff. I assume he has a great work ethic. I think we saw Chris Archer talking about how hard of a worker he is. I don't know. Have you been around him?
I have not been around, but again,
you probably heard.
We did that other episode. We watched the Chris Archer, see him speak about how hard of a worker he is. The type of work ethic he has is impressive, and with the Orioles, the type of program they have, it is a very impressive program. They put the guys through, and they do
where he was
lifting.
developed.
And really, he had all the stuff when he was there. It just seemed like going to the Cubs something connected. So he has the plan. He has all the all the program being built up within him. So he probably still continues a lot of that lifting. We just don't know.
We're not hearing about it, except from Chris Archer. So, talk about. I think it's be a good thing to talk about when you go through your warm-ups before a game, and you get 8 pitches. Talk about your intensity. What's your intensity percentage each pitch?
So what I'm doing when I'm actually stepping on the main mound and I'm going through my warm-ups, the idea is I'm just trying to get a feel of the mound, feel of the game, get comfortable out there. Then my first pitch, but I'm a reliever, so I know I got, I'm going to be out there for 15 pitches around that, so 1 inning. So I'm going my intensity is pretty high, especially the last pitch. So my last pitch is pretty high intensity. Try to make it a quick game-like pitch where I'm actually checking a runner and then deliver the ball. Try to go high, a good high strike. I started out with a couple fastballs, one fastball one side of the plate, one fastball the other side of the plate, 2 sliders, a changeup, and then a fastball. But they're pretty high intensity. The sliders aren't as high intensity. The changeup isn't as high intensity because really with those, I'm just trying to feel my body move, feel my release point on where that mound is. Because a lot of times, especially as a visitor pitcher, you go from the visitor mound, and this is in Wrigley. The game mound are different. They do that on purpose to make you feel a little different. Land a little differently, and so really usually the first couple pitches you're feeling the mound, kind of feeling the zone, because a lot of times in the bullpen you're just trying to let it eat, trying to get your arm warm. So out there, first couple pitches I'm trying to locate a little bit, feel the mound, but get something behind it. Flip a couple sliders in there, flip a changeup, and then that last pitch I'm definitely going. That's game intensity for me.
Cool. All right, good question. Let's go next question. DJ asks, "Hey Brent, love the show. Can you clarify what foot syncing is and how it helps hip-shoulder separation 3x extension?" Okay, so I called this foot sync just because if you really watch low-level pitchers and high-level pitchers, when they go to open their front foot or land and move the hips and rotate the hips, the feet typically sync up. When you look at low-level pitchers, they'll open their front foot and their back foot usually doesn't even move. Okay, so first of all, syncing the feet up, like hitters do, we all do, it supports rotation, because if you're not moving both limbs, then your hips don't want to rotate. You can't rotate one limb and the hips rotate. Back foot, front foot, the hip's not going to rotate. You got to rotate both limbs. So,
I don't know.
You having fun over here? So, we've got to sync the feet up. Now, Is this mimic Brett day? Is that what it is?
To sync the feet up.
All right, you trying to bring some comedy to this boring question? Even it's a great question, it's boring. Boring because it's technical.
TJ, it's boring because it's technical.
All right, so we sync the feet up, and the reason that will help hip to shoulder separation, it won't really help. It will help extension on the fact because to extend the hip and the back leg drive, if you don't rotate the hips, it's not going to extend.
It won't help with hip extension, but it helps with the timing. That's essentially right. It helps produce a better product. It won't necessarily the feet being synchronized aren't going to necessarily help the drive in the hip.
Right. It has to go together.
But it's just the timing of the whole process. It's the entire kinetic chain, and that's part of it. That's what high velocity pitchers do. That's what the top major league pitchers do. Is they have really good feet synchronization. So everything's happening at the right time. They're not driving early and opening early and waiting for that drive to happen.
He's exactly right. Timing is critical. This all won't work together. So I only understand things, it's maybe just me, if I don't understand the whole puzzle. So if we just define what's going on, we want the hips to rotate, right? We want the hips to open when we land and the shoulders to stay closed. Separation of hips to shoulders transfers energy late, and we typically get a better arm path, more energy to the ball. So how do we get the hips to open? Because the shoulders are already closed. We start closed. So the shoulders are already closed. Don't have to do much there. How do I get the hips to open? And that's where this comes in. Well, if I'm standing in a lateral position with my hips closed, I'm obviously going to have to turn the feet open to get the hips to open, okay? At the same time too, I want some linear power behind that because my trunk has to then move linear after it separates and starts to rotate. So how do you drive and rotate at the same time? It's really challenging. Sit there, and I want you to drive and rotate your feet at the same time. It's tough. It's something that baseball players have perfected, and it's something that Dave used to tell me all the time. Tell me one thing to focus on. It's too hard to focus on two things at one time, even though a lot of pitching is focusing on two things at one time. So if we have to focus on one thing at one time, the first thing you learn is extension. You learn drive. So I want to learn the energy. That's the potential energy. Then we have to learn how to rotate once we get the extension. So you're going to learn to extend, and then you're going to learn to rotate. And the rotation is starting in the feet because they're controlling the kinetic chain. And I always say in my approach, it's triggered by the front foot. So that triggers, as that opens, that triggers rotation. And if the back leg just drives at that point, then that powers the rotation. So really there's only one thing rotating, and it's your front foot. Because once that front foot opens, it's the only one off the ground. Now everything starts to swivel with it. And if you're driving at that exact moment, then you get extension and power into rotation, and it creates everything that we do with 3X pitch.
Yeah, no, we essentially had a kid in here that was throwing what? He was 15 or something like that, throwing like 90, 80, what was it?
Which kid?
We had one kid in here. No, it might have been a little younger.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it. Now I'm forgetting.
But he wasn't big. He wasn't really tall. He wasn't really strong. And he was young, but he was putting up some pretty crazy numbers in here. And velocity-wise, and what it is it's the timing, man. The timing's a big piece of the puzzle. It's what a lot of people can tell you. That's where they fail. They're strong enough. They're mobile enough. They're able to do the abilities. It's just the timing. They have no idea the concept of when something's supposed to happen. And so that foot synchronization, that front foot beginning the process of slightly opening up, that's when everything should go. But remember, that's supposed to happen down the mound. You can't have it happen early.
Right.
If it happens early, and then the drive's early, everything, you're tall, you're rotational, and it's
right, and the energy goes up as opposed to out.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of, there's not a direct correlation between the foot synchronization and the hip, but because it doesn't necessarily, they both have to happen. It's just because the feet are synchronized, you're not going to all of a sudden drive perfectly and have great hips.
Because if we're just purely rotational, if I just swivel my feet open on the rubber, then I don't have any power moving me down the mound. And then I'm not going to have any power moving my trunk forward. And then I'm just going to be rotational with my trunk. And we see rotational pitchers, and they typically don't throw as hard as linear to rotational pitchers. So a linear pitcher, you can't then just be a linear pitcher though. You can't just sit there and drive and land completely sideways and then try to shoot your arm around it. would never work that way either. So because you're putting them both together, the timing is really what makes it work. Because if the front leg opens and the back leg waits and then the front leg lands and then it tries to drive, it's gonna have to drive so much harder to get the hips to open than if it would have driven the moment the hips opened. So that's where the timing really makes it work and really makes it efficient.
Nailed it.
All right, we nailed it. So check out the DA on the bullpen or the bullpen with the A. Check out 2x3x programs, topvelocity.net. Come down to 2x3x camps. We will see you on the next episode, getting close to 300.